Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula and welcome to another Hero Arts video tutorial. In this video, I'm going to stretch the use of some Hero Arts Holiday 2016 stamps and we'll use them to create a non-holiday card, a fall card. I'm going to be using beautiful color layering deer stamp set to create a focal point for my project. I've already pre-stamped several different deer color option charts so that I can refer to them and quickly pick the colors or color combos I want to use for my images. And Hero Arts has these available on their website as well. I find these to be very helpful. I like to quickly flip through them to check what color combo option would work best for my card, so this saves a lot of time and eliminates the guesswork. But of course, you can experiment with other colors of ink you might have. You might want to replace the top layer of this image with embossing powder or use pigment ink. The sky is the limit here, really. I'm going to be using this particular color combo option, and it includes soft vanilla, brown ombre, and pumpkin pie. And the last layer, the fourth one, can be stamped in either brown ombre again, or say Copper Joe ink, or even in black. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to use my Mini Misty stamp positioner today to stamp my deer, but you don't have to use this particular tool. You can stamp it using a regular clear block. Instead of starting with the base layer first, the one that is usually most solid and the one you'd usually stamp in the lightest color of ink, I will start with the third layer. Basically, it's the top layer for this image. Because my base layer is going to be stamped in soft vanilla, which is a very light yellow, it will be very difficult to properly align the next layers over it. So this is why I'm starting with the last layer and darker color of ink. And this applies to many other color layering stamp sets. I like to use this trick with pretty much every other color layering stamp set from Hero Arts that I have. So I'm going to position my stamp and will ink it up using pumpkin pie ink according to my predefined color combo, and I'm going to stamp this onto my panel. I'm going to double stamp this image and also other layers for the most vibrant and saturated color. Next, I'm going to grab the medium layer and will position it over the already stamped image. Now, because the stamped layer I have here is not as light as it would have been had I stamped it in soft vanilla or any other light color of ink, it's now much easier to align this medium layer over the base layer. I'm going to zoom in here so you can actually see how much easier it is to align it. I'm going to close my Misty door and will ink the stamp up with brown ombre ink. I'm making sure the lightest color of ink is at the top of my image. And I'm going to stamp it once and then again stamp it one more time for a more saturated color. Since I'm going to be using the same ink color for the antlers, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this image right now. Because I'm using coordinating dies to cut my deer out, I'll stamp the antlers away from the deer. The deer die and the antlers are actually two separate dies, so if you're using the dies, make sure to stamp the antlers separately. If you don't have the matching dies, you can stamp the antlers onto the deer like I did on my sample color combo pieces. So again, I'm using the same brown ombre ink and going to double stamp this image onto my paper. Now we need to stamp the first layer, and again I'm going to place my image, my stamp, onto the already stamped layers. And again, it's very easy to position this, and I can clearly see through the stamp. Even though it has been stained, but I can still see through it and align it perfectly on my project. And I'm using my lightest color, the soft vanilla ink, for this one. And here we have a perfectly stamped deer. I also need to stamp the outline of the deer legs and also the face. I actually forgot to stamp the face and only remembered it when I had cut the deer out, but I used darkest color from the brown ombre ink pad to stamp both of these images. I'm also going to stamp a few leaves to decorate the antlers of my deer, and I'm using soft olive and also pumpkin pie inks for this. Now let's go ahead and die cut these images out, and I'm using matching dies and going to position them over the images, tape them in place with washi tape, and we'll go ahead and cut them in my die cutting machine. Once my die cutting is done, I'm going to work on the background panel for my project. I want to stamp several images from various Hero Arts sets to create a fall-looking background. I'm going to start with a script image and will stamp it in brown ombre ink. I'm using the same colors of ink here for the background as I did for the deer, so everything is cohesive on my finished project. I'm going to stamp this in 2 sections onto my panel, and I'm using the same brown ombre ink for both images. In this image, as well as the next one, both come from the Vintage Post stamp set from Hero Arts. I'm also going to stamp the brush stroke image, and I'm using pumpkin pie ink for this one and layering it over the previously stamped script. One last image I'd like to add to this background is the tree from the Vintage Wishes stamp set, and I'm stamping it twice, again using that same brown ombre ink. I'm going to use the second largest die from the rectangle die set from Hero Arts. This is from their new Infinity die collection, and I'm going to die cut this to just trim my panel down slightly, and these dies are actually perfect for standard A2 cards. I can now go ahead and foam mount my deer along with its antlers onto my background. I'm using foam adhesive here to pop this element up and help it stand out on the background. I always like to use foam adhesive for my focal point pieces. Once that is done, I'm going to work on my sentiment. And I want to use a frame from the Holiday Messages and Tag stamp set, and I think these frames are fantastic for many occasions and can be used with many other sentiments, not just holiday sentiments. I'm using brass embossing powder here and heat embossing the frame as well as the sentiment, and my sentiment reads, "Dearest Friend," and it's from the Color Layering Deer stamp set. The sentiment there says, "To my dearest," and then there's "friend" as a separate stamp. But I used my scissors and cut off "to my" part from the "to my dearest" and only used "dearest" on this project. There are also matching dies for these frames, and I'm going to use a matching die to quickly cut the frame out. I decided I wanted to add a little mat to my stamped panel, so I cut a piece of gold foil paper and adhered my stamped panel onto it. I also used some natural twine and wrapped it around my panel a few times and tied it into a bow. I foam mounted my die cut frame and added a double layer of foam adhesive to the bottom part of the frame and a single layer to the top part that overlapped the deer. Now, since there already was a layer of foam adhesive where the deer die cut was, I only needed a single layer of foam adhesive on that part of the frame. And I adhered this onto an A2 top folding brown card base. Now I still have those leaves that I stamped and die cut, so I used my Glossy Accents glue and adhered them onto the antlers. I shaped each die cut with my fingers to give it some additional dimension. Now I don't usually use Glossy Accents as my glue, but I was all out of my usual adhesive, which is multi-medium and matte finish, so that's why I used Glossy Accents here. Lastly, I adhered a small gold sequin over each leaf on my card, and that finished my project. So here's a closer look at this card featuring Hero Arts holiday stamps on a non-holiday project. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section on YouTube or on Hero Arts blog. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!